Have you ever had the experience of seeing something change in someone else, but they couldn't see it? Or have you ever had the experience of something changing so gradually in your life that you weren't aware that it had been changing until it happened? Whether that was gaining a bunch of weight, losing a bunch of weight, just becoming a new version of yourself, good or bad, however you want to label it, but because of the gradual nature of it, it came as a surprise when you finally realized it. It's such a common experience that when we're in the eye of the storm, we can't see things objectively. And when we're so close to something, we can lose sight of the arc of the moment-to-moment growth. And this video that you're about to watch is me seeing the seed, the planting, the origination of growth in myself. The ability to see myself outside of the container of who I am as the boyfriend, who I am when I'm in Los Angeles and driving the car that people know I have and wearing the clothes that people know I generally wear and eating the food that I normally eat. Who am I when you pluck me up and place me in someplace random, like India, traveling by myself for the very first time? What does that look like? And finding this old journal entry from that time while moving out and packing up my house during this conscious uncoupling process. I've just been going through, and the same thing where we're just splitting things, like what books are hers and what books are mine. Let me do this, actually, because I feel like a king in this. So maybe this will feel empowering and this is fake fur, just for everyone who's immediately projecting onto me that I'm an evil person. I went to India by myself for a month, and it was the first time that I'd ever traveled by myself, and especially to a place like India. And that was the first opportunity I'd had in 7 years of being with her to see, who am I? Overall, I, quote, found myself in India. I laugh at the cliche nature of that statement, but it's true. It isn't so much a finding of something I didn't know, however, but more an opportunity to see myself with an objectivity that is impossible to replicate back home. I also have not been able to see who I am without Melinda for 7 years now. We are cosmically, externally entwined, and while that is one of my most cherished truths, it was incredible to see me for me. Take away Melinda, Azria, for people that know, my comfort, my communication language, my job, etc. Who am I? I got to see it, and I'm so happy with what I saw. Maybe developing more self-love is going to be the result of seeing myself more and more clearly. There's so much worth loving about myself, and yet my dots that I perceive constantly shade the truth of my divinity. And I got these reflections through India of just like who I had become as a person, and it was the first time that I went, whoa, I couldn't see this while in relationship. In the relationship, I was still growing tremendously. And for the next 2.5 years, growing tremendously. And so even though there was this part of me that was aware clearly that there was information for me outside of the relationship, it wasn't that important because so much growth was happening in the relationship. But that tide shifted at some point. The equilibrium shifted to where there's more growth for me out than in. And so there you have it. I saw it in India years before my breakup. I saw that there was a version of me that existed outside the relationship. Because we can fall into these familiar patterns. And that is why it's so important to create the opportunities for these external reflections of who you are now, without the weight of your past and who people think you are. And so in what ways in your own life can you create that? Create those opportunities where people don't know you. Travel is one of my favorite ways to do that, especially solo travel. To go to a place in the world you've never been, around entire countries full of strangers.
Getting out of your normal routine, out of your comfort zone of the type of car you drive and food you eat and clothes you wear, and experiencing something completely new. And in those moments, you're gonna see people who are meeting you in the present moment with who you are now. And if you start to notice that, wow, I'm a more loving version of myself when I'm not around my friends or my family, what valuable feedback. Because that's now something that you can shift with that level of awareness that is giving you choice. Because everything in your external reality is reflecting back to you something in your internal world. And so my invitation to you is create the containers, create the opportunities, go to an event with entirely unknown people to see how you're received. Go travel by yourself. Go get into online forums with people and be your most authentic self and see how you're received. Recognize how much is available to you when you show up fully as your authentic self today. You are seen, you are heard, and you are loved.